Brian, in your book, The Investor's Paradox, you talk a lot about how people can simplify their choices and avoid making the mistakes and falling into the traps that so many of us experience in our financial lives. Tell us a little bit about that. What is this investor's paradox that you write about?
Well, smart investing is really about making good decisions. And there's a lot of theory and evidence that shows that making good decisions generally in life is difficult. There's something called the paradox of choice, which simply states that the more choice you get in life, actually, the more miserable you become. There's sort of a tipping point where having a little bit of abundance is good, but having too many choices, too many boxes of cereal on the shelves, too many TV stations, it's actually quite overwhelming. It's psychologically disconcerting. This applies to investing as well, and that's why I call it the investor's paradox. We're currently in a market here where there are thousands upon thousands of choices that investors can make. They can buy mutual funds, they can buy ETFs, they can buy separate accounts, they could buy stocks or bonds directly. Increasingly, there's something called liquid alternatives, which means that there are hedge fund strategies coming in mutual fund wrappers. There are literally tens of thousands of things to choose from. So the investor's paradox captures the idea that we are overwhelmed by choice and we need to find a path towards simplicity to cut through it all.
And as you said, making good decisions, I mean, that's something our parents tell us from day one. Make good decisions, associate with the right people. But a lot of it goes into people having enough information to make those decisions, but not so much that they're confused. Are there ways people can kind of simplify or certain things they need to look for in their financial life to help make those decisions easier?
Absolutely. I think good investing starts at home. It starts at looking in the mirror and saying, what do I want to achieve? And sometimes it's as simple as saying, well, we want to send our kids to college, we want to retire comfortably, we want to have enough capital to be charitable in the community. And so through, I think, very basic financial planning, you can map those things out. So I think it's very important to start with the demand side of investing versus the supply side. The demand side being, what are my goals, where do I want to get? The supply side is, well, here's all of these products from all of these fund companies that are being sold to us in very slick wrappers. If we are reading magazines or watching the TV and seeing these slick products, we might be compelled to say, oh, that's really interesting to me, but if it wasn't first mapped onto a goal that you have, that's a real problem. So the first way to cut through all of the noise is to have a clearly stated set of financial objectives.
Right. It's very easy to get caught up into the Bitcoin or the Tesla stock or whatever the hot thing is, and you feel like you're left out when you're not involved. And you do a lot of work in behavioral finance. That feeling of being left out is very powerful, but on the other hand, people remember their losses a lot more than their wins, right?
We are wired in a way where we can almost never win. On the one hand, if we miss out on a big winning trade and Tesla triples and we don't own it, we feel a feeling of regret when our next door neighbor has just made a lot of money. At the same time, we are wired to feel what's called loss aversion, meaning that the pain of losing actually feels much worse, 2 to 3 times as bad as the good feelings you get from winning. So for example, if you won $100, that feels pretty good. If you lose $100, it feels terrible. So there's that asymmetry there. So a key is for folks to recognize that loss aversion is built into all of us, but then there's also the feeling of regret that you have. And how you balance those is sort of a day-to-day conversation you kind of have to have with yourself and with your family.
And as you said about financial planning, people can have different pockets of money or different buckets where I'm willing to lose some of this. Here's the money I really need to just keep and grow conservatively for retirement, for a kid's college, something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And trying to keep track of your built-in biases doesn't mean that you get rid of them, but you recognize them as much as possible.